This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio, a show about addiction, recovery, and everything in the middle. And tonight, for the great Andrew Spanswick, is Josie Feldman, therapist to all.
Hello, Judah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Josie?
I'm great.
And let's welcome everybody out there. Let's welcome all our Facebook followers that found us at facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. We love your posts. We love your comments that go on all week after the show. It's pretty amazing. And what's amazing is that people get to post and comment and send us private messages, because we know this is one of the hardest topics to talk about. And you know, you got to send us private messages, ask us your questions. And last week we had a really interesting show. Josie, you weren't here, but I know you listened. And we had the pot doctor on. We actually, it's not the pot doctor. She's the what is it?
Pot mom.
The pot mom, and she also runs the cannabis clinic. And we got back and forth. And it was, you know, it was very cool to have a discussion about all the stuff going on. But then, you know, in the middle of the week, you know, there were some interesting stories that came out.
Yeah, actually, let me preface this by saying, you know, when it comes to marijuana, personally, I believe if it helps people that are in pain who don't have to take pills, that's a good thing. You know, when it comes to hemp, there's many uses for hemp. You know, recreational use amongst adults, if it's done responsibly, not against it. But I think you have this view, Judah. There's no regulation. We're just unleashing this thing on the public, which can cause a lot of problems, including this, first story from our friends at ABC News on why marijuana edibles might be more dangerous than smoking, because there's been a string of recent incidents linked to pot treats. And at the very least, these should have people thinking, you know, is our society moving too fast when it comes to the wacky weed, the leaf, the ganja?
What a voice this guy has.
I know, right?
But this is KLEAN Radio.
But I think, yes, and he's the voice of KLEAN Radio. But I think you raise a great point. And, you know, we couldn't get into it so much last week, but there is a lack of regulation. There is, you know, you have alcohol in the cabinet. You have all these things, and you know that's still dangerous sometimes. But parents do leave out the pot, leave out the marijuana. The kids could take it, and that happened.
That is happening all the time, especially here in Southern California. Also Colorado. Not hearing about it too much in the Pacific Northwest, but some of our listeners up there will let us know, I'm sure. But you know, the parents are making their pot brownies or bringing their pot brownies home, and then little Johnny in third grade sees them before going to school and steals them, and then takes them to school and hands them out to his friends, and suddenly you got a whole class of third graders in the corner hugging each other.
And a couple of them actually in Colorado sold it.
Yeah.
You know, they were 11 and 10-year-olds. They were in school, Josie, and they were selling, you know, I mean, they're very, entrepreneurs. And
school won't know, they're just brownies.
But, you know, there's something, there isn't enough regulation yet. And that's just my opinion, and I know a lot of people disagree with me. I don't get the disagreement, but until we regulate it, I don't think, again, why should we unleash something into the public?
No,
Sorry, Josie,
unfortunately, there's not enough education about it either. That's the other problem.
Yeah, about the effects of it, about the long-term effects of it, and all that stuff. But that's not exactly all that we wanted to talk about tonight. But you are listening to KLEAN Radio in the studio tonight with Josie Feldman. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Ram, I mean, that is a very interesting story, because until we get regulation, I mean, I think it's safe to say that that's our opinion, right?
Well, because things are happening. Like in Colorado, there's a man accused of killing his wife after eating some legal pot candy. Now,
he was actually on the phone with the police for 12 minutes.
Right.
And she was the wife, and on the 13th minute, the response time was obviously horrible, and she got killed.
Yeah, they were having an argument. He got agitated, got aggressive, got his gun, and he shot her. Now, there is some information that's saying he might also have been on prescription meds, but that raises another question. You know, what about the interactions pot has with other drugs?
With others, and including alcohol.
Right.
You know, you're talking about a mixing of cocktails that's really not, it's not good. It's not good for this.
Yeah, we need, like you said, we need more research. And the whole, dude, I took some Oxycontin and smoked a blunt, and it was great, is not research, folks. We need, and for as prevalent as this drug has been for as long as it's been, Isn't it odd that we don't have more definitive information?
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, the assumption that most people have is that marijuana is a drug that doesn't interact with anything.
Right.
So it's one of those drugs that people try to add on to other drugs to try to enhance or change their experience in some way. But as we see in this case here, sometimes it can lead to people having some serious psychotic episodes. It is a very strong hallucinogen.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I actually enjoy talking to Rand about this, like I said, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, but Rand directs the show, but he's also not an alcoholic and he's not an addict. He's been around the show for 4 years, so you've gotten to learn a lot of stuff. But I enjoy, and neither are you, Josie, and I enjoy getting the perspective sometimes because, you know, sometimes when, you know, you get it from the alcoholic, it's like, oh, don't legalize it. You know what I mean? Everything is to protect the sober person. But in this case, you're a father, Rand.
Right.
You know, and you're going to have to be dealing with this with your children because your child is going to be, well, it's legal, Dad. Why can't I do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to, I mean, for kids, and when I say recreational use amongst adults responsibly, that's one thing. When it comes to kids, you know, they've got their brains are forming. They've got to let their brains form. And when it comes to these edibles, people aren't sure how to take them. They should be taking 1 or 2 bites. They're having 1 or 2 pieces, and all hell's breaking loose. Like in Denver, a Wyoming college student was visiting Denver, probably because pot is legal there, and he jumped to his death from a hotel balcony after eating a pot cookie purchased legally at a shop. And even the coroner listed marijuana intoxication from cannabis-infused cookies as a significant condition contributing to his death. I mean, these things are happening, and we need more regulation, bottom line.
I mean, so, you know, as a parent, what do you tell your kid? I mean, I'm not confronted with that type of situation, but because it's becoming so, you know, it's okay to do it. How is that conversation? How does that conversation go with your child?
You know, because we don't know, it's like putting, you know, 100 cupcakes out on a counter and saying, you know what? You can 99 of these are great.
Yeah.
One of them is going to kill you. You want a cupcake?
Let's ask that question. Do you want a cupcake? And but you know, it also goes to what I wanted to talk about before, but in other topics, which I think it actually transitions very well to, is because I know a lot of times people sometimes do listen to this show that are still drinking, and. You know, and we love that because, you know, if you're listening to this show while you're drinking, you're either the biggest masochist I've ever met in my life, or part of you is questioning, do I have a problem? You're listening to KLEAN Radio and you're saying, do I have alcoholism? Do I have addiction? And, you know, the odds are if you're, you know, listening to the show and you're getting a lot out of it, you might. You know, and so give us a call. I really would love to hear from you. That number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. That was Rand DeWitt with the stories of the night. You have any more? You have one more for us.
We've got this one that was making a lot of news last week. Powdered alcohol.
Yes.
Palcohol, as they call it. Last week, the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approved powdered alcohol, including vodka and some rum varieties and what do they call it? Palcaritas.
Like margaritas
Exactly,
in
but
powder form.
And so this was legal for all of about 20 minutes before they said, oops, the approval was made by error. Now, Palcohol's parent company, Lipsmark, said there seemed to be a discrepancy on the fill level on how much powder is in the bag, and they said that they would resubmit after the labels were redone. But this is some commentary. I mean, to me, it seems like this stuff was approved and went through all the testing, and then some higher-up lawmaker who gets tons of alcohol lobby money from sources not involved with powder alcohol got on the phone and said, this cannot happen. Make it stop.
Right.
Because once something gets to the label phase, it's gone through all the testing. And of course, powdered alcohol isn't new. Multiple patents have been filed over the years. One by General Foods Corp in the 1970s says the product is made by absorbing ethanol onto some sort of carbohydrate powder. And since we're talking about powdered alcohol, we know there's somebody listening right now that's saying, dude, can I snort it? Okay, no. Okay, it's on the website, Palcohol's website. It says you cannot snort this stuff.
And I love that you just made yourself laugh. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Let's go to Pat in Macomb. Where are you calling from, Pat?
Yeah, Macomb, Michigan. I so often hear of people saying that there's no proven cases of pot causing any kind of damage, but I was a heavy pot smoker back around 96, where I had some, and it was coated with some stuff, and I assumed it was paraquat, and it really debilitated me ever since. And a lot of pain in my head ever since. And just want people to be careful of what they smoke.
Okay, so, you raise a great point. And how long did you do it for?
Oh, I don't know how many years, but I've been off it for quite a few.
So what do you say to people? I mean, because I'm sure you hear people say this all the time. People say, well, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't do anything. It's just for a little bit. And I'm sure people say this to you all the time. Or, what do people say to you in reaction to you saying how dangerous it is?
Well, I really don't tell anybody about it. It's a personal thing, and I just want people to be aware of that. What they smoke could be tainted with something.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about the legalization of marijuana?
If it's going to be legalized, I feel it should be, gone through some type of testing to prove that it's not, sprayed or tainted with anything.
Well, listen, Pat, we got to run. Our calls are lining up. You're welcome to call anytime. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your message.
Yeah.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. I want to thank Rand for the stories of the week and really his amazing voice. And we're in the studio tonight with not Andrew Spanswick, but Josie Feldman. And we're talking about, one of the things we're talking about, obviously, and it's an issue that won't stop, and it's an issue, Josie, that's not going to stop for a long time, is pot. And part of the reason is because of what we were talking about with regulation. We don't know enough.
We don't. We absolutely don't.
And yet people are fighting to say, let's legalize something again without knowing the consequences or having a system to set up when the consequences happen.
Right. And dosages. I think about dosages. How do we regulate dosages? How does one know when they've had too much?
Yeah. Right, exactly right.
I have no idea.
Let's go to Shane in Albany, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Shane.
How are you this afternoon?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Oh, good. This is the first time I've listened to your radio program.
And hopefully it's not the last.
So anyways, I've been listening to what you guys have been talking about, and one thing that kind of, sparked my interest was, the coroner in Wyoming mentioned something that marijuana had a lot to do with the death of the person.
Right.
And, I've been addicted to everything under the sun, and I've been really, I've been through programs and everything else, and, one thing that, I can honestly say for personal experience is, marijuana itself has not ever influenced me to do something really stupid except for sit home and
do nothing.
Play video games.
Yeah. But what Rand was talking about before is, and this is the whole issue with regulation, Josie, also what we're talking about is we don't know what other meds people are on, and we don't know the combinations sometimes of what pot and other medications could do. So obviously the guy that killed his wife had issues other than just smoking pot. Obviously the guy that jumps off the balcony has issues other than smoking pot. The problem is when you put the pot and you mix it with other things, who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. And what about mental health issues that are pre-existing that the person already has? I've noticed from my own experience in the field that it seems that a lot of people with bipolar disorder have an adverse reaction to marijuana in particular. I'm not sure if this has ever been researched, but I imagine that there are other mental health issues at bay here that could lead to somebody possibly having a psychotic episode, as noted in these articles.
And here's the thing, the argument isn't, and I'm tired of the argument, and of people going, well, alcohol's legal. Well, others, listen, we've made mistakes. The pharmaceutical companies, we know, Josie, they're unleashing other drugs that are extremely dangerous. But that doesn't make it, and you say, well, because they're doing that, let's just say this is okay. Yeah. Until we know, we don't look at one mistake and say, well, we made a mistake, let's make another mistake.
Right. Alcohol also was never, well, at some point it was touted as a medical cure, but at this point, we know that alcohol has no medicinal capabilities. I'd like to see further research with marijuana.
Yes. Before we say let's legalize it.
Yeah.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with one of my favorite therapists in America. That's Josie Feldman.
Thank you.
And, it's funny.
I do have one more question.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I totally forgot you were there.
My question is, have we looked at the statistics between, dangers of alcohol abuse versus, marijuana abuse, as a whole instead of just off public opinion or, what some people say versus what, psychologists say that are paid by, people who are, paid to debunk issues like this?
I'll let you answer that, Josie.
So, what exactly is...
Are you asking, do we have studies that show what's more dangerous or...
Right. I'm asking about honest studies versus, studies that are paid for by people who, fund debunkers versus, honest studies by actual hospitals and instead of just psychologists.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about that. I mean, psychologists, however, there's a distinction between psychologists and psychiatrists. Like, I think you might be referring to psychiatry. Psychologists don't prescribe any medication, so they would have no ties with pharmaceutical companies. Are you asking more so about pharmaceutical companies and whether or not they might be funding debunkers? Or
Yeah, because, I've seen a lot of tragedies happen with, alcohol abuse versus, marijuana abuse. And honestly, I've known people, who've been prescribed by it. And honestly, if it's prescribed, then honestly there is, some good things about it, So, but I also hear a lot of really bad things. Oh, you can't smoke it and you can't do this, can't do that. It's against the law. People go to jail for it. And everything else, and I see a lot of harm due to alcohol abuse versus marijuana. I'm just kind of curious about your guys' opinion or your.
Again, and Shane, I want to thank you very much for the call. It's actually a good question, but here, this is what we're talking about again, Josie. This isn't because. Okay, so alcohol is dangerous. People get in cars, they drive, they kill people. We know alcohol. People, get into trouble. It doesn't matter. Let's say there are 1 million people that have been affected by this. So if 100,000 people are affected by pot, that one has nothing. We don't say, well, let's legalize it because of that.
right.
And that's a constant thing we're hearing. Well, because alcohol's legal, this should be. Those two things don't necessarily have to go. That doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-mm.
And so if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with the amazing therapist, Josie Feldman. And so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Our call screens we have tons of calls we got to get to after the break. We're talking tonight a little bit about, the problems with just saying let's put pot out there. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about tonight. I wanted to know if you ever listen to the show drunk, if you ever listen to the show high, are we helping you?
Or if you're listening to the show drunk or high at this moment.
Yes, that's exactly right. Feel free to give us a call. Trust me, I would love to hear from you. So that's if you just tuned in, you are listening to Clean Radio. We'll be back in a couple seconds.
Don't let addiction to drugs or alcohol steal another year of your life. KLEAN Treatment Center provides world-class addiction assistance that also treats the underlying causes and provides vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean. Live, kind, professional help is standing by to provide immediate assistance or to simply answer questions and provide guidance. If you or someone you care about is suffering from addiction, take action now and make 2014 the best year of your life with KLEAN Treatment Center.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. In studio tonight for Andrew Spanswick is Josie Feldman, the amazingly talented therapist. And that's what I'm just going to call you from now on, is the amazingly talented therapist. And came into the studio tonight to tell us about what's going on Facebook, because this topic just goes nuts is Delmer Buddy Totten. What's cooking on Facebook, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Let's see. Off the topic of marijuana.
Don't use their full names.
No, I will not.
Yeah. And that's facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. Yes.
I promise I won't.
Even use fake names is okay, buds.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Jan, ask, can a young couple, age 22 or say 24, get sober together?
Great question.
Ooh.
You know, that's actually a great question.
Very good question.
And we actually posted that, I know that post is probably in reference to, because I also wanted to talk a little bit about tonight about dating and sobriety and all that jazz. And here's the thing I'm going to say to you. Hold on for our answer till next week, Jan. Let me think about that. It's a cliffhanger for next week's show about dating. No, here's the thing. There are no rules. There are no regulations about getting sober. None of us have the answer. Why not? Why can't you guys get sober?
I mean, when somebody's in early sobriety, they want to really lower their stress levels, lower all stressors.
Yes.
And one of the biggest stressors that people typically have are relationships.
Women can do that to you. Or men, of course. But you're right, and that's a great question. And that's the whole thing about why they say no relationships in your first year. First of all, it's just a suggestion, but it is. It takes you away from yourself. Mm-hmm, it takes you away from getting better. And if you are curious if you have alcoholism or addiction, I always say the best way to know that you are for sure is if you have a minute sober and you're worried more about dating than you are about getting sober, you're an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because that's as you're dying, you're wondering, can I get a date tonight? It's a good chance you have a problem.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And Buds, what else do we got?
Let's see. What do we have going here?
That's a bad sound on the radio.
I'm sorry.
Let's get to a call, buddy. Let's go to Cindy. She's been waiting on hold for a long time.
All
Let's
right.
go to Cindy. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. I just want to say, first of all, I'm calling about last week, but I was glad to hear that last week you were a little, you held your ground last week on pot, whereas usually you kind of go, oh, yeah, I think pot should be legal or whatever a few weeks ago.
No. Cindy, just so you know, I do think pot should be legal with regulations.
Oh, okay. I think you held your ground against that lady last week, and
Thank you.
I did listen to the whole show. I didn't get in, but what I wanted to say was that I have a long time sobriety. I happen to think that pot is worse than alcohol. I'll just say that right out. But did you notice? I didn't call because that guy that called in and said that it almost killed him, and that
She was a snot nose.
he was very slick.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of bottom lined it, and I thought, well, I don't have to call after that call, because did you notice that? And like all pot smokers, anytime you say something about pot, that you cannot win with a pot smoker, and I just always imagine this lady. I'm thinking the whole time, she is so fascinated. I imagine her sitting in her kitchen till all hours of the night, mixing up different, potions of this pot and that pot for this disease and that disease. And I thought, she's a chemist, and she's addicted, and it's all paraphernalia. And that's part of being an addict.
Yeah.
And she's an addict. Come on.
And, and here's my thing on that,
And all she's trying to do is trying to put a good face on it. Well, they do that with alcohol, too, if you've ever watched a beer commercial or any alcohol commercial. Well, she's trying so hard to put a good face on it. Well, why do you have to try so hard to put on a good face? Because we know right from the beginning it's a bad thing. I'm totally against it.
Listen, Cindy, I don't, here's the thing, and this is why we're talking about it. And because, and I said this to her friend that was in the studio. I said afterwards, I said, anybody that says something they know 100% on one thing or another, I don't want to talk to. Because, this is one of those topics that even every person should be able to go back and forth in their mind, Josie, and say, it's right. I don't know. It's such a confusing topic.
We did try and legalize it for people that have cancer, but look what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Abused
Yes.
out of hand, and now they have to close places down, and it got corrupted.
Yes, which is usually what happens in our society.
Yeah,
Is
but that lady last week. I mean, what did you think? It was like
she was a very nice lady, and I thank her for coming in, and she's always welcome back. And
Yeah, I mean, she was
she has.
well-spoken.
Listen, here's the thing. It wasn't a debate, it's a discussion. And the only way people are going to ever formulate their own opinions is by having a discussion, by thinking about it back and forth in their head.
That's right.
And look at society-wise, how far we've come with so many other things, whether it's gay marriage, whether it's because eventually people were able to process in their head and say, it's no sense.
Right.
And they were able to, we didn't, the proselytizing wasn't done. We're not here to proselytize. But what we're here to do is say, and that goes for sobriety too. That goes for being clean. We don't proselytize. What we're saying is, we're here. This is what we do.
Let's have a discussion about it.
Let's have a discussion. Right. You want to come and join our side? Great, but we're not going to be on the streets going, "Come on!" And you're right. On that side, that is the fight. But it's not a God bless, and she's a very sweet woman, very nice.
She spoke very well,
Yeah.
but I'm listening to her the whole time. I can't imagine being so fascinated with marijuana like she was.
Yeah,
and to
it's
make her whole life about making it legal. I mean, that's not. To me, that's the definition of an addicted person. I mean,
you're and that's your opinion, and I will not ever diagnose somebody else.
Because I'm in,
Yes.
so much. I have a long time sobriety,
But
that's just me.
Cindy, call back anytime. We got to run.
Okay,
And thanks for listening to Clean Radio. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to Clean Radio. That was Cindy commenting on last week's guest. And if you just tuned in, like I said, Clean Radio, give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Buddy Totten's reading some Facebook comments we got during the show.
What do we have, Buddy?
Let's see.
Delmer
here.
Buddy Totten.
Yes. Let's see. In reference to a comment that we posted. Hold on just a sec.
Again, not good for radio. Let's go for Jake in Vancouver, Washington. Jake, welcome to Clean Radio.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hi, Jake.
I'm good. I just had a comment on some of the background screening.
Yes.
Before you get a green card.
Uh-huh.
I don't think there's any psychological background screening before you get a green card. It seems like any doctor will just hand out a green card to.
Oh, you mean a green card?
Like a medical marijuana card. I thought we were talking about immigration here.
Card, and I was like, no, I don't want to get political.
Oh, no, not this topic.
Okay, so it's a green card.
Okay.
Is that actually what they call it?
In Washington.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
But for every sob story, you can't just hand out something for patients that have I have hereditary clinical depression, right?
Right.
And I've smoked weed for almost all my life, and I just recently figured out that that's the complete opposite of what you want to do for my disorder. So, you kind of need to put that regulation out there, and make sure the doctors aren't just handing out a medical marijuana card without actually doing the research on each patient.
Well, that's you're raising a great point. And Jake, this isn't just with, and we talk about this on the show, this isn't just with doctors. This is, doctors that are not trained have been giving, prescriptions for many different things. And now it's, now we add pot to the equation. Mm-hmm. But, a general practitioner, shouldn't be giving, anxiety meds.
Right.
And
Exactly.
because they have that book, they can. And that's, you're right, about regulation. There's a whole thing. And this goes to the topic. You see, we could talk about this and continually come up with different issues that are going to arise.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important, Josie, that we do talk about this.
The discussion is vital.
It's kind of the truth about the whole thing, because people will get their hands on, weed, even not legal. I mean, most of the dealers, or most of the people that are in Washington, still don't even go through a doctor.
Right.
And I don't know what the process is like up north, but I know in California, basically you just walk into one of these weed doctors' offices and they write you a script.
It's very simple like that here.
It's in and out.
You have it all over.
It's just like a prescription mill. You just go in, and as long as you have the money, you can say whatever ailment you have. It seems like basically.
So, Jake, I'm taking it you don't smoke.
I do.
Oh.
I've actually stopped because I prefer to stabilize myself. I kind of had a dependency on it for the last couple of years.
Okay.
And, it's not an addictive substance, but you can grow very dependent.
Well, that's addiction.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
it's a fine line
Well, dependency.
Yeah,
Right,
there's
but it's
actually a
not like if you smoke a
detox that people go through
Yeah.
If
from
you smoke
marijuana.
cigarettes, you have a nic fix, and you have to your body has a negative response to that. Whereas, like, if you stop smoking weed for a day or two, you don't have a withdrawal.
That's Jake. We're finding that, and we're not saying this to scare people. We're finding that to be totally
Yeah.
not the case.
Right.
Because you got to remember, the marijuana these days is so potent. It's what they're doing with
true.
it, what they're doing within the lab, psychologically, physically. If you're doing something every day, it doesn't matter what it is. You're going to have some sort of. You could go to the gym every day, and on the day that you don't, you're going to have a feeling.
Right.
So, Jake,
Yeah.
please call back anytime, and thanks for the good info.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Can I finally safely go to Buddy Totten?
Yes, you can. So we posted a question. Do you feel that marijuana is a gateway drug? And we had a variety of answers. Jenny says, no, it's not. And I'm an addict. I've been clean for almost 3 years. Alcohol is what makes people weak and do things. And that particular drug is legal. And then down here, further down it, we have Jim that says, yes, there is no doubt about it that marijuana, I'm paraphrasing, is a gateway drug. So there's responses all over the spectrum. It's a very common question, and I think it's very pertinent to what we're talking about.
And again, I love that you're getting this dialogue.
Yeah,
And
it's
because
awesome.
it's so tiring. And that's the only problem I have with the people that are, fight. And I said this, and last week she was in the studio. She had essentially compared it to a civil right, and I was, and there was a point where she compared it to the LGBT, how to say it correctly?
LGBTQ.
And I was like, no, it is nothing like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
That's for people to get married and, and be part of society. This is getting high. And that's the only, and I never again, last week's guest was amazing, and she has her point of view, and it's when people have their point of view, we're able to, discuss it. Mm-hmm. And let's go to another call, because I want to go to Rich in Tampa, because he's actually listened to the show drunk before. So, or hi, welcome to Clean Radio, Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, Judy, man, how are you?
Good, how are you?
How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to call and respond to what you were asking, if people had listened to the show either drunk or high or all the above. And I actually did. I used to, and I called in, and luckily I didn't get on the air because I was pretty far gone at the point.
How did it make you feel, by the way, though, when you were listening to us?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Was it a good experience?
Yeah, how did
listening
you feel
to us high?
listening to us high?
what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Like, how did you feel when listening to us high?
Oh, actually, now I use you guys as kind of part of my my backbone in sobriety. It's just a little part of my week, but I look forward to it, and it helps.
Wow,
and
that's
it did
awesome.
help because I've been relapse sober,
That's great.
for many years, and today or tomorrow I'm actually going to be 70 days clean.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Now, I'm going to clap in the studio. No need for side effects. I have loud hands. And
Yeah.
And so, Rich, that's amazing. How did you find out about us?
I actually was doing. I don't even remember.
Because you were high. And you
But
accidentally
I remember
stumbled.
it was somewhere. It was on YouTube. I came across it somehow.
Yeah.
That's great. And
I don't remember.
that's great. It doesn't matter. The point is you found us and you're coming up on 70 days sober. And I love that you use that. Are you going to meetings and stuff?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. And I tried it before, maybe let's say a year ago.
Right.
And I couldn't wrap my mind. What the reason I was calling when I was drunk the one time was I was going to talk to you and Andrew about the higher power thing.
Right.
But I get it now, and I've been going for the last couple of months or so, and it's starting to click, So
That's amazing. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because this is years ago, and when I was living in Florida, I was working in radio there, and I was still drinking. And part of my job was I had to put, it was a syndicated show we had on Dr. Laura, and my job was to push the button. And I had to listen to Dr. Laura for 4 hours while coming off a bad hangover. And I got to tell you, there is no worse hell. And and I wanted to know because but part of me, when I would listen to this show, Josie, part of me had this feeling of like I knew I had issues, You know,
yeah.
and that was the hardest part of listening to that show. Was it was like I'm listening to this woman talk about in some ways getting healthy, and I'm sitting here, you know, drinking, and in some ways it did help me because I knew I had something wasn't kosher.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And it's I mean, I talked to my wife too about it's the same what you just said. You like the same experience that I had. It's where it's you know you're doing the wrong thing and you're making the wrong choices and you're living a life that really is not suited for you. Yet you keep doing it. Why? Well, that's the question. But
Were you a pot smoker, Rich? Were you a pot smoker?
Man, I was everything. But yeah, like but my main two drugs of choice were absolutely alcohol and weed and alcohol.
It's quite the combo.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and I could get drunk, of course, without weed, but I always craved it, and it was always the inverse when I was high, but I didn't have alcohol. So, I mean, it's like I couldn't be satisfied until I had both. But and that just went on for like since pretty much like the year 2000, you know, so it was on and off.
Well, I'm really,
yeah, I'm really
really proud of you. I really, it's amazing. And if you, Rand, why don't you, we're going to put him on hold in a second. He'll get Brian's info, and we're going to send him some clean swag. And so, is we're going to send Rich some, no, but Rich is going to, you know, we're going to send you some good stuff out there from Clean Radio. But I want to know, what's your best advice for, you know, like, what's the best advice for people out there that are getting, or trying to get sober?
Honestly, well, there it is. I mean, just two words, just be honest, you know, or be honest with yourself. You know, if you think you have a problem, you probably do. You know, and that's a very proverbial, but I mean, it's true. If you think you have an issue, you might. So.
That's exactly right. It's like when
Good
people
way of
used to
putting
say
it.
to me, do I look fat? If you have to ask, probably do. That's a whole other area. Rich, hold on, because I'm going to just put you on with Rand so we can send you some stuff. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. That was Rich calling from Tampa, Florida. In studio instead of Andrew Spanswick, it's Josie Feldman. And I love that we're talking about this.
I know. It's a great discussion.
It is a great discussion because it's, you know, it's getting the different perspective. You know, it's people are telling their true stories. You know, people are, you know, I mean, I've never met somebody at the age of 70 that said to me, you should have smoked more pot.
Right.
Right. You never hear that, buddy. Have you
Secret
ever heard
to
that?
long life.
I mean,
Absolutely
right.
not.
The secret, nobody on their deathbed says, you know, a couple more Percocets and a little weed would have been a better life.
I really would have been more productive human being.
You know, and that's my problem sometimes with these people fighting. It's like this revolution of people trying to get high. And we're not talking about the cancer patients here. We're not talking about people that are sick.
No.
Right.
And I'm not talking about people that are depressed and are treating their depression. We're talking about the people the 30,000 people that were in Colorado last week, you know, get a job. And, you know, worship. Yeah. And it's just bizarre to me, this fight. There's so many things in our life. Fight for good. You know, fight for people's rights. You know, I mean, if I sound like
Human rights.
Human rights. I sound like a Beastie Boys song. But you know, you fight for the rights, and you know, but you're fighting to get high. Stop it. You know, fight to live a good, healthy life. And wow, that was a heck of a tangent. And let's go to Gary in Lakewood, Washington. Welcome to Clean Radio, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, props
Hey,
to
Gary.
both you, Josie and Andy. Props to you.
It's Judah.
Listening to your story.
It's Judah and Josie. But thank you.
Hello.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay. Props
I
anyways.
know.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Yeah. I caught on to listening to the message, and it just stuck me, man. I had to listen some more. You know, it's the first time I listened to your show. I like it.
And it better not be
Great.
the last time, because
It won't be, believe me, because I'm one of those people. I'm 58 years old,
wow.
Vietnam era veteran. Of course, I've been in
Thank you for
recovery
your
on and
service.
off most of my life. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Recently, you know, I went the harm reduction route with the methadone program
Right.
for a couple of 2-3 years, and that's not the answer either. You know, when you were talking about people need to, you know, they need to get a job or fight for something worth fighting for, you're absolutely correct about that, because the only place you're going to find drugs and alcohol you know, you have to have some kind of controls within yourself, you know. So if you're going to have side effects acting out or doing it in the the wrong place and all that kind of stuff, you're going to keep having that. So you realize you have power in yourself to deal with what you got to deal with.
So how long have you been sober, Gary?
I've been sober. The longest time I've been sober is 8 years.
Okay, so you're sober now 8 years?
Not now. No, I'm sitting here smoking pot as we speak.
Oh, really?
So you said you wanted somebody that's smoking weed,
This is
right?
perfect.
Gary, and I like your honesty. I really do. How does it feel, though? I mean,
Yeah, what's it like?
Is there any conflict?
What, is there any what?
Conflict listening to the show?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure, man. That's why I had to call in, because
Do you
even
want to
though
stop?
I'm smoking pot, I know how to do it.
Well, apparently not.
I'm kind of like in a kind of low point in my life right now, but I know what I got to do, and one of the things, just put it aside.
Gary, do you want to stop?
Stop.
Gary, do you want to stop?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Do you think you could stop yourself, or can you go?
I think I can.
Okay.
I think I can. I got the tools to see you. I've been to treatment, like, they send you to treatment, and you go 8, 9, 10 times. You only need to go to treatment once. They give you the information, but if you don't put this stuff to work in your life, it's not going to work.
But sometimes, Gary, you served for us, right? So every time, you went to basic training, right?
Right.
And that was training you. But basic training didn't always train you for, handling certain, for everything you had to keep on going and to get trained if you wanted to handle something new. And sometimes maybe rehab could be like that. It's like
that's true.
You keep on, more is being revealed, and you served.
right.
And I'm sure you've seen stuff and heard stuff that no human should ever have to deal with. So maybe now more is ready to be revealed in a safe and sound setting.
True, and sound setting is key, Gary. I mean, you can a person can have all the information and all the tools, but if they're not in a productive environment, a safe environment, so that they can get those tools out and use them, then the information goes to waste.
I'll tell you what, Gary, you're a very honest guy, and I know I'm going to be able to trust you. So we're going to do the Gary test on KLEAN Radio.
Okay, Judith, go ahead.
You ready? So next week is Sunday night. That's 7 days. Do you think you could go the next 7 days without smoking or drinking?
I will give it my best shot.
Okay, that's all you could do.
That's all I can do.
And I'll tell you what, why don't you maybe try?
I will make a commitment to you that I will.
Try,
and I'll
but
call you at this time.
Even Gary, if you don't do it, don't think it's failing.
Right.
Just give us a call back, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then
you have to pick yourself up and dust yourself up and keep trying, because the quit trying is the die.
That's exactly
That's
right.
right.
And you're alive. There's a chance, Gary.
Exactly.
And then we're gonna go from there. So if we're gonna go from 7 days to 7 days to 7 days. Are you on Facebook?
No, I'm not very computer literate, to tell you the truth.
Don't worry about it.
This phone.
Gary, you've done enough for this country that you don't need to be computer literate.
Absolutely.
I could come up with every defense for people that have served.
I know, right?
So Gary, here's the thing. Next Sunday night, you call back and you tell us how your week was. And we're going to figure it out. If you can't quit by yourself, we have a facility in Washington. No matter what, if you can't quit by yourself and you want to get help, KLEAN Radio will get you the help you need.
That's so great, man.
And I promise you that. I don't want you to be alone. If you if you could give if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to get your number, and Rand's going to give you our info. And if you need anything during the week, you call that number.
Great. I'm sitting here in the house with the lights are all turned off, and it's just me and a cat.
Yeah, that's nobody should be.
It's kind of a bummer. You're making me cry right now, but I appreciate that.
I'm going to give you the number over the air, Gary. It's 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. The odds are you didn't write that down, so I am going to put you back on hold with Rand so he can do that. And I want to get you out of that house this week. Let's find you some meetings that you could get to. You more than anybody, you don't need to be lonely. You don't need to be hurting anymore, Gary.
Absolutely not.
No, thank you. And you don't know how many people, Gary, the courage that it took for you to call in tonight and talk about this and tell us what's going on. You are helping so many people, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thanks, man. I go back anymore. It just feels so. I don't like being in a hopeless place, because I know there's help.
But here's the thing: by
God
admitting,
told me to turn on the radio, and that's what I did, and I got you. So
that's it.
That's awesome.
And the great thing is, Gary, is when you say I give up, the great thing about being sober is you win. You know, that's the thing about sobriety, and that's the thing about saying about to alcoholism and drugs. You got me.
Yeah.
I'm beat.
That's right.
And then, and the greatest feeling is after you say that, you know, it's like this feeling of you surrendered.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't like you can't be, yeah, Josie, sorry.
Yeah, you surrender and you move forward from there. I mean, I have to say, I really appreciate your honesty and your courage and calling. Really, truly, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, I'm tired of being tired, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
And you know what, Gary? You have so many more years of happy living, and it's going to start tonight.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so hold on, okay?
Thank you very much, Junior.
Thank you. Just hold on, Gary. Don't
Just
hang
hold
up. I
on.
want to get your info, okay? I want to give you our info. Thank you. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That was Gary. You know, Yvette calling from
Extraordinary.
Amazing.
Amazing.
And you know, it's really cool to listen to somebody, Josie, like Rich, call in and talk about that he's sober 70 days and he used to listen to the show drunk. And then, you know, Gary calling in, who just happens to turn on the radio, hears a show called KLEAN Radio.
That is amazing.
As he's smoking pot in his house with a cat, lights off, you know, not exactly the romantic setting.
Right.
And being tired.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because he's listening to everybody on the news going, pot's not dangerous. Let's legalize this.
Right.
And you know, somebody like him's going, oh, well, why not? Yeah. You know, but it's killing him.
Yep.
Right.
And you're right, everybody out there. Gary's not everybody. You know, some
No.
people can smoke weed. That's great. But a lot of us can't. And until we come up with regulation, until we figure out something to help people like Gary that are self-medicating at home, to help other callers that are, it's a little too quick to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Wow, the chances that he would just accidentally stumble upon us.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. It's and that happens all the time. Like people that are stumbling, turn on KLEAN Radio, find us on YouTube. And, you know, I want to thank a lot of people because that takes a lot of people. We have a lot of people that help put on this show.
Right.
And, you know, guys like Brian Cambra, Anthony, I can't pronounce his last name, Delmer Buddy Totten, you know, Rand DeWitt, of course, and everybody, and Patrick. And, you know, it takes a team. And Steve, who's back behind the boards, who I never know his last name. Don't tell me, Steve, because and because I'm not, you know, but Steve, you're the best and I miss you. And, it's good to see you back. And it takes so many people, but with all that stuff, people find us on Facebook, and it's a really cool family we've built up. And I want to thank all our listeners and all our followers for helping out and supporting us on Twitter, supporting us on Facebook. And you've made it possible. So, Buddy, thanks again, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do you have one quick comment?
I do. So, we posted our addictions aren't unique, but we're all individual. And then Patrick made a comment: addiction does not discriminate, and it has no boundaries. It's a very equal opportunity.
That's exactly right. What about no better way to end the show than on that? Josie, I want to thank you again.
Oh, thank you, Judah.
Of course, thank me. And you are the rock therapist of my life. And, you know, you're Josie Feldman. You also see people, you know, you're a good woman. All of Josie's info is on the KLEAN site. I want to thank everybody out there that makes KLEAN Radio what it is. Andrew will be back next week, and we have an amazing guest. The discussion continues at KLEANradio.com.
Don't let addiction to drugs or alcohol steal another year of your life. KLEAN Treatment Center provides world-class addiction assistance that also treats the underlying causes and provides vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean. Live, kind, professional help is standing by to provide immediate assistance or to simply answer questions and provide guidance. If you or someone you care about is suffering from addiction, take action now and make 2014 the best year of your life with KLEAN Treatment Center.